Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Nick L, Trevor S, and Thomas H. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. On X, CERN had an interesting take when it comes to a ratio for Tesla's production and deliveries each quarter. Every quarter, no matter what the actual numbers are, some level of production each quarter doesn't actually get delivered until the following quarter because of transit times. Whether it's truck, train, ship, it could be anywhere from 1 week to 3 weeks, if not even longer if there are sea-based disruptions. So he came up with a way to effectively smooth that out over time, and here's the chart that results. The math is simple. You would just take 100% of the current quarter deliveries, which in this case for quarter one is 386.8 thousand. Then you would divide that figure by two combined figures, the first of which is 67% of the current quarter production, and then you add 33% of the prior quarter production. I went ahead and did that math just to double check, and that's exactly how you get the 85% delivery to production ratio using this metric. Why this is so important, not only does it give us a new level of context for how this fits into what Tesla has been doing historically for quarterly P&D reports, but it reiterates the point I was making yesterday that we're not really going to have full clarity on how bad quarter one actually was until we get quarter two results. That's because historically, every time this ratio has dipped, meaning deliveries relative to production comes down, the following quarter you see a trend that this ratio typically jumps back up. I'm not at all trying to sugarcoat Tesla's Q1 performance. I'm just saying let's not get super dogmatic about the current state of Tesla until we see how quarter one plays out into quarter two. Some more photos and videos of the Model 3 Ludicrous have come out since Tesla held that press event this weekend. I'm guessing that they're going to give these creators maybe 1 or 2 weeks to put together their videos. Then maybe sometime in the next 2 weeks that embargo is lifted and we get the official announcement. The truth is, it could be any day now. I do think it's at least worth noting some of these vehicles did have Texas manufacturer plates. I'm not at all ready to say I think Tesla is going to manufacture this vehicle in Texas, but I wouldn't completely rule it out either. Here's a decent look at the white bucket seats with the Ludicrous badging. Nick Patane on X compared the front fascia of the Ludicrous version to the long range, and you can see the air intake on either side. For the tires, it looks like the front will be 235/35/20 and 275/30/20 in the rear. And one more shot from Nick of the updated black bucket seats. Chris Riley shared a video about Tesla hosting over 1,000 students at factories across the country for a high school graduate job pathway. This one we've touched on before, the Manufacturing Development Program. It's a great initiative and, in my opinion, given the current education system, something that our country desperately needs. The Tesla website says this program is designed to provide graduating high school seniors with the financial resources, coursework, and experience they need to start a successful manufacturing career at Tesla. As somebody who does social media for a living, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite saying this, but I do desperately believe we need to make manufacturing cool again for the next generation.
Okay, we have an Amazon truck in the right lane. I'm gonna wait until we pass it. Letting this guy in front of us go, which is very nice. Very natural.
That was pretty nice. If you didn't notice, it started slowing down before this car even put on a turn signal or indicated it was trying to get over. Reuters is reporting that Tesla plans to send a team from the US to India by late April to study sites for a proposed $2 to $3 billion electric car plant. Tesla will focus on Indian states that have automotive hubs like Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. Last month, we talked about how India finally changed their policy on EV imports, and they said effective immediately, companies will be allowed to import up to 8,000 EVs costing $35,000 or more per year at a lower tax rate of 15%. That was down from 70 to 100% before. That effectively opened up the door for Tesla to finally test the waters of the Indian market with its higher priced vehicles. The word has always been that Tesla plans to make the next gen platform or the more affordable Tesla at this factory that they would build in India. Thus, Tesla may be looking for sites for this factory as early as this month. I'm interested to hear your thoughts about this one. Historically, Tesla has not allowed customers to buy out leased vehicles at the end of the lease term. That's because what we've heard, Tesla has been planning on stockpiling for this robotaxi fleet. I'm sure there are other reasons around residual values in Tesla's used car business, but simply put, Tesla's lease rate was down to 2% for Q1, which is very low. And for the Model 3, which currently does not qualify for the tax credits as a new vehicle purchase, if you lease it, that's effectively a workaround. Right on the Tesla website, it says includes $7,500 EV lease incentive distributed across the lease term. That's part of how Tesla has been offering some of these attractive lease rates. It's the same story for the Model Y, so you would think that this would be a nice option for customers to test out owning an EV for a few years, get a feel for it without having to commit to buying the vehicle. But I totally agree with Bradford that I think most customers actually want the option to buy the vehicle at the end of the lease, especially if you're going to put money down up front, which helps to bring the lease rates down. The information has reported that last month, Tesla machine learning scientist Ethan Knight became the 4th Tesla engineer to leave Tesla for xAI. At Tesla, Knight had overseen the team working on computer vision for Tesla's self-driving tech. The rest of the article doesn't really say much we didn't already know, but they did say xAI boasts 32 technical employees and then lists the 4 that came from Tesla. Responding to Sawyer sharing this article, Elon did add context saying Ethan was going to join OpenAI, so it was either xAI or them. They have been aggressively recruiting Tesla engineers with massive compensation offers and have unfortunately been successful in a few cases. Definitely not a reason to panic. When Andrej Karpathy left Tesla in 2022, many people thought it was the end of Tesla's AI team, and clearly with version 12, that's not the case. But it does touch on 2 very important updates that I think we need. One, did Elon have that conversation with Tesla's board of directors about Tesla investing in xAI so Tesla investors can have some skin in the game? And then 2, we all know Elon wants that 25% stake in Tesla so that the chances of a hostile takeover of the company and hence the AI IP is at least lower, giving Elon that amount of control. As it stands now, without Elon having his most recent pay plan, he only owns about 13% of the company. It was November 22nd of last year when Elon said, "We'll discuss with Tesla board." As I've said before, Wall Street hates uncertainty, so until we get clarity on Elon's next compensation plan and getting him to that 25% ownership level so he can feel confident developing AI at Tesla, there's going to be some level of uncertainty that serves as a cap on Tesla stock in the near term. When I was still in the fitness world, I kept hearing about this product that was getting a lot of recognition for being the product of the year, and it was also dubbed the best meal replacement. As someone who understands these can be effective tools when used properly, I wanted to do some research so when people would ask me about it, I knew what I was talking about. So I ended up trying Soylent, enjoyed it too much, honestly, and now they sponsor the channel. And in case you've seen the movie,
Soylent is plants! It's plants! Not people!
This is my favorite right here, Cafe Mocha, with just enough caffeine and L-theanine, 20 grams of protein, no artificial flavors, gluten-free, vegan, a 2.83 potassium to sodium ratio, look up why that matters sometime, and only 1 gram of sugar per serving, plus a bunch of other vitamins and nutrients as well. I have to say, I really just use it as a snack, to reward myself every now and then for making a disciplined choice or just as a treat. I am not suggesting you start relying on this every day. Remember, around 90% of what you consume should be whole, organic, unprocessed food. The first 500 people to use my link below and my code Electrified30 will get 30% off their first subscription. The link is below. Enjoy. Holmar said, in the future, every car will be self-driving and electric. As robot cars eat the auto market, Tesla will be the overwhelming benefactor. Elon said, and we will license the tech to other car companies. We've known that Elon and Tesla have been willing to do this. What really matters, though, is what other companies are actually going to take up Tesla on that offer and when. Ross Gerber said it's time for shareholders to assess the blame where due. Tesla board of directors should be replaced immediately with independent directors as required by law. In my opinion, sadly, Ross has completely gone off the deep end, but replying to this, Elon said, He's such an idiot that he can't even tell he's an idiot. BYD sales dropped by 42% from last quarter. This was a tough quarter for everyone. I have to be honest here, I don't love this response from Elon. I'm really not a fan of name calling, even if it's actually warranted. Plus, even if it was a tough quarter for everyone, all of these comps to other companies ultimately don't make that much sense. For BYD, for example, we're comparing them to quarter 4 when they had insanely explosive growth. And not only that, but everybody knows quarter 1 comps compared to quarter 4 are a fool's errand. I know Elon's human, he has emotions and bad days and can only take so much nonsense from the same people over and over, but he to whom much is given, much is required. Tesla China has announced new incentives for the Model 3 and Model Y. If they're trading in, you can get 5-year interest-free payments, and if you're buying new, you can get 3-year interest-free payments. This right here is a great way to move vehicles in an environment where interest rates are high. The question is Tesla doing this in partnership with a bank, or would they do this via captive financing? If the latter, then it makes sense that Tesla will only want to pull this lever in select markets because they don't want too much captive financing risk on the balance sheet. Sawyer also shared this image if you want some more detail, but personally I would not get my hopes up that this comes to the United States. Frida Duan, who's a principal at Altimeter Investment Group, had an interesting post about FSD and Tesla versus the competition. For now, I would classify this takeaway as a rumor, as I was not able to corroborate anything elsewhere online, but she said Waymo rumored to be also pivoting to end-to-end. Now, even if they do, they're going to struggle with data collection relative to a company like Tesla, given its limited fleet size. She also said even when data is stored, third parties like Nvidia and Mobileye face hurdles using it in real time. Her conclusion: as the industry gravitates towards the end-to-end approach, Tesla's moat actually seems to be widening. The full post will be below. RJ Scaringe posted on X a picture of an R1S rolling off the line saying our 100,000th Rivian. Certainly a big milestone. Congrats to their team. Next up, 1 million. Ultium just put out a press release yesterday saying that toward the end of March, the Ultium cells plant in Spring Hill, Tennessee successfully shipped its first battery cells to its customer, GM. That's after about 2.5 years of a ramp up, and shipments to other GM plants will increase in volume and frequency as the plant commissions additional production lines. For most of last year, Mary Barra was saying that this was a bottleneck for their Ultium EV sales, so now that that may be lifted to some degree, all eyes will be on GM's EV sales for the remainder of this year. Looking at Ford's Q1 press release, they said across gas and hybrid vehicles, an increasing preference for hybrid trucks and SUVs helped deliver Ford the best ever quarterly hybrid sales record. Overall hybrid sales in Q1 were up 42% on sales of 38.4 thousand vehicles. This is strictly US data. Ford also said they sold 20.2 thousand EVs in Q1, making Ford America's second best-selling EV brand behind Tesla. The Mach-E sold 9.6 thousand for the quarter, up 77% from 1 year ago, and the F-150 Lightning sold 7.7 thousand, up 80%. Both, however, were obviously coming from very low bases. Don't forget, in Q1, Ford has slashed the prices of the Mach-E, and they also had the stop sale on the F-150 Lightning for a number of weeks. That's another reason why I'm really not a fan of pulling other companies' sales data and then contrasting it with Tesla over the same time periods. It just lacks the actual context of what type of base each company is coming from. I've seen people saying Tesla was down 8% year over year, but Ford is up 77–80% year over year. This is definitely an egregious example, but the lack of nuance in the conversation is the point. I saw Sawyer point this one out. It's a Ford job posting for a steer-by-wire electrical engineer. Oliver Cameron, who has worked at both Cruise and Voyage, had this to say about FSD. Super impressed by the latest version. It drives eerily natural and handled very weird scenarios with no hesitation. I've ridden for hundreds of hours in driverless cars, and although it's not perfect and I'm a tiny sample, this is exciting, not April Fools. Oliver was asked, do you think Tesla is ready for driverless? He said, it's impossible to say without looking at their takeover data and how many would legit lead to safety critical issues. Stack failure data, i.e. detecting degradation of performance, or their stuck data, i.e. how often the autonomous vehicle has no clue what to do to achieve mission success. Ashok shared this video from Scott Walter saying whether some surface is drivable or not is all contextual. We typically don't want the car to drive on dirt, but since the paved road is closed, the car needs to drive on dirt. The same logic also applies to mounting small curbs to avoid a larger obstacle. So collision avoidance cannot be an absolute objective, but a relative one. The actual objective is minimizing risk of injury and property damage while still getting to the destination. It requires a lot of intelligence to assess this risk accurately. This comes naturally to humans and is now also obvious to the car's AI. Ashok then said the final version of this is the trolley problem. In case you're not familiar, this is the trolley problem. It's effectively a philosophical or an ethical argument. Would you divert the trolley in order to save 5 people if it meant you had to kill the one? Yesterday we talked about the new trucking emissions that will be for 2027. Well, Kevin O'Leary had some comments on the matter.
Unfortunately, everybody knows this mandate's timing is impossible. We talk about this quite a bit in the sector of the economy where 5 to 500 employees, small businesses that use a lot of transportation services for consumer goods and services. There's no way this is going to work on that schedule. It probably takes 7 to 10 years longer. So the batteries don't exist for this. These trucks that are designed now can't even go past 200 miles. That's not the definition of a long-haul transport. That's a short-haul transport. Won't work. The grid is woefully underserved. There's not enough charging stations. None of this is going to work. And I don't want to be a pessimist on it. It's just not realistic. And so what's going to happen is you see this mandate fall off its targets over the next 36 months. It's going to have to be adjusted. Otherwise, you basically bankrupt where 62% of jobs are created in America. Small business. You can't wipe out small businesses in America with a lofty mandate that doesn't have even the technology to make it happen. We don't have the tech. So let's everybody wake up and smell the lithium batteries for a while. They don't work yet.
I'm pretty sure the Tesla engineers that worked on the Semi would have something to say about that "they can't go over 200 miles" quote. Xiaomi has said that the SU7 has now received more than 100,000 orders for their first EV, and the CEO said China will surely give birth to a great company like Tesla. Just one anecdote, but Ray for Tesla shared a video of some early SU7 owners that shared this video. They pulled off on the side of the road, they heard a tractor-like noise from the vehicle, and they noticed something leaking from the vehicle in 6 different spots. Honestly though, some level of early production problems are to be expected, and even cars like the Cybertruck have had problems themselves. Apple now reportedly has teams investigating a push into personal robotics. Engineers at Apple have been exploring a mobile robot that can follow users around their homes. They also developed an advanced tabletop home device that uses robotics to move a display around. However, they're saying it's unclear if the products will ultimately be released. So far, Apple has not committed to either project as a company. I think the main takeaway here though is that most of the biggest companies on the planet have now announced plans in some way, shape, or form to work toward humanoid robots. I think guys like this need to be held accountable for their absurd takes.
I totally agree with the description, unmitigated disaster. This was really the beginning of the end of the Tesla bubble, which probably arguably was the biggest stock market bubble in modern history. I actually think the company could go bust. And because
You think Tesla could go bust?
Yes. I'm having on quarter next, in 2 weeks' time, I have around 30 cents of earnings. Sure. Do that times 4, you're at 140. On a no-growth stocks, you should be at 10 times earnings. 10 times 140 means $14. That's probably a fair valuation.
A quick search shows us Per Lakander, a hedge fund manager, has been shorting Tesla since 2020. The cherry on top, his fund is called the Clean Energy Transition. From the website, they focus on clean energy power generation and the electrification of transport and industry. Meanwhile, they're shorting Tesla and calling for them to go bankrupt. That's basically Exhibit A of what I was talking about earlier today over on X X about the programming and the brainwashing around EVs and Tesla that's taken place over the past few years. In case you need a quick injection of hopium, Amit shared this picture of Elon's likes on X, and most recently at the time, it was Cathie Wood reiterating her $2,000 share price for Tesla stock in 5 years. It may not be much, but it's not nothing either. GM just announced the final specs for the Chevy Silverado EV RST that's going to be launched toward the middle of this year. Base price $94.5 thousand, 440 miles of range. What's interesting is that 2 years ago when GM announced this vehicle, they were expecting 400 miles of range and a price of $105,000, so GM has improved on both of those metrics. This one will have an Avalanche-like multi-flex midgate. It allows the 5-foot 11-inch bed to be expanded to hold items measuring over 9 feet long. You can also fold down the multi-flex tailgate to haul items up to 10 feet 10 inches long. They're touting a 0 to 60 time of less than 4.5 seconds when using the wide open watts mode. Reservation holders will get a complimentary bi-directional level 2 charger that's rated at 19.2 kilowatts. The vehicle will charge up to 350 kilowatts DC, and it has 4-wheel steer and an air ride adaptive suspension. The towing capacity will be up to 10,000 pounds. It does have a frunk, which GM is now calling an e-trunk. They're saying it'll have the hands-free driving of Super Cruise across 400,000 miles of compatible roads in the US. I have to say, it's a decent looking truck with some unexpectedly nice specs, so we'll see if they can actually deliver and produce this vehicle. But as we've been saying for years, bring on the competition, it makes everybody better. Tesla stock closed the day at $168.38, up 1.05%, while the Nasdaq was up 0.23%. It was a lower volume day for Tesla, trading about 13 million shares below the average volume the past 30 days. Don't forget, check out Soylent linked below. Apologies in advance if you end up liking them more than you should. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did. You can find me on X linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.